Thank you guys for doing that so quietly. That was awesome. Go ahead, put those in a safe place. They'll be due on Friday. Okay, let's start off with a good term. Okay, this is number 2. We don't have to worry about making it up at the end of the term. That's a pain, as some of you realized last term. So make sure you get it in this Friday. So keep it in a safe place, okay? Because I'm not going to be able to make more copies, so make sure you keep it somewhere safe. Go ahead, once you put it away, grab a red lip book in the back, and then come up front and grab a blue piece of paper on the card. Yep. Inside, leave it alone.
I'll just see what I was.
What's the deadline? Is that you do that? There you go. Go ahead and grab the AO delegates. So they're just up there. Grab a piece of paper and a red envelope. Okay? Alright, red lip books, blue pieces of paper, and find your assigned seats. Find your assigned seats. Open up to page 426. Okay, Sarah, come in.
Here, calm down.
Okay, time to focus. Okay, open up to page 426. Okay, 426. Today we need, you're not reading very much today at all. We need to finish Anne Frank today. So the blue paper, we're actually going to summarize the ending of scene 3 and scene 4, and then we'll read together the last little bit of scene 4 and scene 5. Okay, so it's very, very short reading. It's not very much. It's seriously like a line or 2 for each character. So we need a Peter. McLean, thank you. Anne. Ariel, thank you. Me. If I want someone in 3 seconds, I'll pick 3, 2, 1. Shay, will you be me? Thank you. I'll be the narrator. We need a Mr. Frank. Dallas, would you be willing to be Mr. Frank?
Sure.
Thank you. And a Mr. Crawler. He has like 1 line. Thanks, Josh. Because remember, where's Mr. Crawler right now?
Jail.
No.
The hospital.
Yeah, he's in the hospital because he was sick with what?
Ebola.
Oh, what is he sick with?
Cancer.
No. We talked about it a little bit last time. He has ulcers. Where do you get ulcers from?
No stress.
Stress. You get ulcers from being very stressed out, okay?
Like the pulse?
So he has ulcers right now, and he's in the hospital. Okay. Which is fine. You can be completely better from ulcers, but it's just painful. Okay, so go ahead. Look at your blue piece of paper. Where did I put my white ones? Okay, and make sure you are following along on your blue piece of paper, okay? Garrett, not right now. Make sure you're following along on your blue piece of paper. There's a lot that happens, and I'll try and stop and kind of explain it a little bit more. But it's just a little summary of what happens to catch us up, okay? So we're at the end of scene 3, okay? Where did we leave off last time? What had happened? Shay. Yeah, they caught Mr. Van Dalen stealing food. How did she feel about it? She was furious, okay? And what specifically? Not just that he was stealing, but more specifically, why?
Because it was his kid's food.
Yeah, he was not just stealing. He was stealing from his own son, who's starving, okay? Thank you, Shay and Garrett. Nice job. So that's where we left off. He got caught stealing, and Mrs. Frank is furious. Have we seen Mrs. Frank like this before?
No. No.
No, we've never really seen her like this before. She's very passive and lets people kind of say what they want, okay? Okay, here we go. Mrs. Frank is livid, or furious, angry, at Mr. Van Don for stealing food. She yells at him and accuses him for stealing from his own son, who is starving and getting very thin. Mr. Frank says that he has never seen Mrs. Frank like this, and says that he does not know this Mrs. Frank. Okay, so he's like, he kind of just says to her, I've never seen you like this. I don't know who you are when you're like this. Miss Frank claims that she wants the Van Dons to move out, and she will give them money to do so. Okay, while she's counting money, so she's like, I'll pay, you need to leave. And she's like, and they were like, we don't have very much money. And her response is, I don't care, I will give you money, but you need to leave, because that's not okay. I can't believe that you would do something like that. So she starts counting out money to give to them to move out. And so she's fuming. While she's counting money, the Van Dons accuse all the food shortage on Mr. Dussel. So she's counting money, and then the Van Dons are like, but it wasn't our fault. It was because Mr. Dussel moved in. If he would have never moved in, none of us would be starving. Is that true? Did one person make that big of a difference?
Yeah.
There was already a lot of them in there, and there was already a shortage of food, but one person doesn't make every single person all of a sudden crazy starving. They were already very hungry, and then it's just one more mouth to feed, okay? But so they're blaming everything on Mr. Dussel. Mrs. Frank is counting money, telling them to move out, okay? They start yelling at him and say that it is all his fault. And Mr. Frank is very disappointed in the way everyone is acting. So Mr. Frank is trying to calm everyone down. You guys, don't do this. Stop, okay? And he says, we don't need the Nazis to destroy us. We are destroying ourselves. What message or theme does Mr. Frank's statement express about life? We don't need the Nazis to destroy us. We are destroying ourselves.
I'm not sure.
It's okay. There's not like a for sure right or wrong answer. It's just kind of your opinion. Are the Nazis trying to destroy the Jewish people?
Yeah.
Yeah. And what are some ways they destroy the Jewish people?
Kill them.
By killing them, or making them go into hiding, like the Franks and Van Dons, sending them to concentration camps. Okay, they're trying to get rid of all the Jewish people. The Nazis are. But he's saying they didn't need the Nazis to destroy them. They are destroying themselves. Okay. So what does he mean by that? Shay?
They're starting fights among each other and just kind of destroying their friendships and lives.
Perfect. Yeah, maybe you don't need the enemy to destroy you. Sometimes it might be your friends. Okay? So what kind of theme is he suggesting about life in general? They're kind of in a survival mode right now. Yeah, are they in a survival mode? They're hungry, they're hiding, they're trying to stay alive. And then have you heard of the flight or fight?
Mm-hmm.
And they're starting to fight. They're starting to destroy their own selves. They're starting to become very selfish. They're stealing from each other. They're trying to kick each other out. I don't care if you're going to get caught. You need to leave. Okay? So they've all, in this survival mode, they've become destructive. Just like Shay was saying. Okay? So in survival mode, they've become destructive. Which would maybe mean, at heart, we're inherently bad, maybe? Is that what it's saying?
Yeah.
If we don't need the Nazis, we don't need our enemies to destroy us. We're going to destroy ourselves from being selfish. We're thinking of ourselves first. Is that make us inherently good or bad at heart? Yeah, so maybe inherently bad at heart. Okay, so let's keep going. We're in the second paragraph where it says everyone is still in the main room arguing. Okay, so everyone is still in the main room arguing. Mrs. Frank puts her hands out with some money to give to Mrs. Van Don and tells her to give it to me, who will find them a new place to stay. So she's handing Mrs. Van Don the money, saying, take it. And Mrs. Van Don won't take it, and she's like, give it to me, and she'll find you somewhere else, because you can't live here anymore. Mrs. Van Don does not take the money, and gets upset that Peter would be leaving as well. Mrs. Frank states that Peter can stay because he is a child and needs to be protected. Peter explains that if his parents leave, he must also leave. Anne is devastated by the idea of Peter leaving. Mrs. Frank says that Mr. Van Don must stay in his room and never come down to the food. She will send someone up to give him his food each day. Mr. Dussel starts to evenly divide any of the food they have. Mr. Frank is trying to calm everyone down and tell them to think rationally. Okay, so there's a lot of things going on. Mrs. Frank is still so furious, trying to give him money, yelling at them to get out, and then Anne is saying, well, what about Peter? You can't kick Peter out. And Mrs. Frank is like, oh, no, he's a child. He can stay because he needs to be protected. And Peter's saying, no, if my parents leave, I have to leave. And Anne's, no, Peter, you can't leave. Okay, so there's a lot of things going on, and everyone's kind of yelling at each other. Mrs. Frank is telling Mr. Van Don he must never come downstairs again until he leaves. He needs to stay in his room, and someone will bring him his food. Okay, so they're all kind of yelling at each other, and Mr. Frank is just trying to keep everything under control. Okay, so that's what's happening. There's a lot going on, and then right then, there's a buzz at the door. It's me. They are nervous because it is very late, and she doesn't usually come this late. They are expecting bad news. And Mr. Frank tells everyone to stop acting the way they are so that Meep won't see them this way. He answers the door. Meep comes with good news. Mr. Frank, so then this is her talking, okay? Mr. Frank, the most wonderful news. The invasion has begun. Okay, anyone know what the invasion is? Shay? What? D-Day. Who, by raise of hands, recognizes or knows what D-Day is? Oh, a few of you. Not a ton, but a few. Okay, so down below that paragraph, I just have a little explanation. The invasion, otherwise known as D-Day, happened on June 6, 1944. So we know what date it is. We know it's June 6, 1944, okay? Allied forces landed in Normandy, which is a region of northern France, and they landed there to launch a military campaign against the Germans, okay? Who are the Allied forces? America, who else?
England.
England, perfect. It says on page 427, the footnote. Oh wait, just kidding. It doesn't. Okay, but yeah, you named a couple of them. So it's basically everyone except for Japan, Germany, Italy. They're the Axis powers, okay? So we're referring to the Allied powers who are against Germany and wanting to invade Germany. So they just landed in France and are making plans to invade and take over Germany, okay? So that's what's going on. That's the invasion. Yes?
Oh, we're not going to watch the movie today?
Oh, okay. We'll pause right there and I'll explain super quickly.
Yes.
Okay, so it was completely my bad because last week I thought I had both Wednesday and Thursday to finish up Anne Frank with you guys so that we would have time to watch the movie, which I think will be very beneficial. However, Wednesday we had the counselors come in, and Thursday you did STAR testing and the assembly, and then Friday we weren't in school. So those were 3 days. So if we can hurry and focus and get through this, we can watch the movie at the end of the unit. Okay, but we have to
So when's that?
work fast. It's not the end of this week, but the end of next week.
Oh,
Okay, so we need to
So
be focused and get it done quickly, okay? So that's what we're going to do. We'll finish Anne Frank today, and then we'll start our unit projects, and then we can hopefully, cross your fingers, if everyone can work fast and hard, we'll be able to watch the movie. If not, I'll have Mrs. Hanks watch it with you on Monday, or like after the end of the unit, so like 2.5 weeks from now. Okay, so we'll figure it out. Okay. Okay. So let's see. So that's D-Day. That's what just happened. Okay. So good news or bad news?
Good.
Good news. Okay. So she's coming in. I have good news. There's been an invasion. Okay. We're in like the third paragraph down. Meep explains that without those little lines. I'm ignoring those. Meep explains that she heard of the invasion through the BBC, which is a British broadcast corporation. It was illegal to listen to the BBC because they gave a more accurate report on what was happening than what the German-controlled broadcasters offered. Okay, so the German broadcasters are controlling what's being put out, and so people don't really know what's happening, versus the BBC, which is letting